The Memphis Grizzlies have a lot to clean up at practice today, getting ready for their play-in do-or-die contest on Friday at home in Memphis. The opponent is irrelevant. The Grizzlies are the ones that need to be the focus on the Grizzlies. We're going to talk about that, officiating, Ja Morant's ankle, and more on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, dear listener, dear viewer, to this special episode of Locked On Grizzlies. It is special because it is Thursday. It is special because it is another day that the Memphis Grizzlies won't lose a basketball game. The sun is shining somewhere. Breathe in the fresh air. Positivity on the eve of Memphis's season being on the brink. Everything on the line at home on Friday night in FedEx Forum. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. As proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe wherever you get podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, YouTube. Literally anywhere you get podcasts. Make myself, Joe Mullinax, one of your hosts, and DeMichael Cole, my co-host, not with me on this episode. He'll be back tomorrow. Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. Make him and I a part of your everyday Memphis Grizzlies content consumption. And also, make sure you're subscribing to our free daily newsletter. We will talk more about the newsletter throughout this 30-minute episode of Locked On Grizzlies. But for now, go to LockedOnDaily.com, subscribe. It is free. Words on the Memphis Grizzlies from me each and every weekday. Go and check it out right now and subscribe. Subscribe. Lots of opportunities to win some cool prizes that we'll talk more about later on in the show. The last 2-minute report from Grizzlies Warriors. We're not going to spend too much time beating a dead horse, the proverbial dead horse. No offense to dead horses. Memphis lost. Golden State won. The Warriors deserved to win the way that they played, especially their two best players, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry. They made plays, and the Grizzlies stars in particular, Jaren Jackson Jr. did not. We talked about that on yesterday's show. By all means, go check it out, listen, watch. And thanks to everybody that hit up the comments. We had over 150 comments on yesterday's episode. That's great. Let's make it more like a message board. Let's make it an interactive community as long as you're nice to each other. Be nice. That's my only rule. I'm like Jackie Moon from Semi-Pro. Everybody love everybody. That's the only rule there in the comments section. But talk Grizzlies basketball for sure. I'll continue to check out those comments. The last 2-minute report. So what this is, for those of you that don't know, is the officials, the league at large, review the calls from the previous game. And the refs basically get graded. It's one of the ways that they decide who makes the playoffs, who works finals games. It holds them accountable for the quality of their calls. And one of the pieces of this is the last 2-minute report. So they review pretty much every time an official makes a call or doesn't make a call. In the last 2 minutes of a game, they say whether or not those decisions were correct. And DeMichael Cole and Jonah Dillon over at the Commercial Appeal, Jonah being DeMichael's colleague over there, talked about the last 2-minute report. Jonah wrote about it over at the Commercial Appeal. Refs missed 4 calls, and this is from @the_Jonah_Dillon on X. 4 calls missed in the final 2 minutes of Grizzlies Warriors, the NBA said. Seems like a lot. One of those calls that was not missed was the 5-second call on Santi Aldama. That was the correct call, according to the league. However, the Grizzlies should have gotten the ball back with 7.3 seconds to go after Ja Morant knocked the ball off of Steph Curry. Whoopsie daisy. A bit of a miss there, a swing and a miss for the NBA officials that were working Grizzlies Warriors. Now, in the interest of fairness, I am nothing if not unbiased. There were calls that were missed, like the foul against Brandon Podziemski that should have been called, or that shouldn't have been called, the clean block from AirPods to Scottie Pippen Jr. That was another one of the missed calls. So it went both ways late in the game. But as we talked about on yesterday's show, the fact that Butler and Curry by themselves had more free throw attempts than the entire Grizzlies team gives you pause. Now, one of the unique things about the Golden State Warriors is that, historically speaking, over the span of their careers, Jimmy Butler gets one of the best whistles in the league. We saw that with the phantom foul that was called on Scottie Pippen Jr. that most certainly was not a foul. And we also see that Steph Curry gets one of the worst whistles in the league. And if you watch the game, again, in the interest of fairness and being unbiased, Scottie Pippen Jr. was fairly handsy and aggressive with Steph. And DeMichael Cole, my partner here on Locked On Grizzlies earlier in the week when we were previewing Grizzlies Warriors, talked about the need to be physical, to get up in the jersey in the hands of Steph Curry, so to speak. And Scottie Pippen Jr. took that assignment to heart. So the physicality was there on both sides. Memphis got called for more fouls because, to be honest with you, Memphis fouls more than most teams. That has been a common thread. We can't call it the Taylor Jenkins era anymore, but over the last 6 years, Memphis has been a pretty handsy and reachy and lack of lateral movement that's probably not a term, defensive team. And when you combine that with Jaren Jackson Jr. being the kind of defender that he is, a successful defender, but one that's prone to fouls, as you and I know, that adds up over time. And one of the most difficult things about NBA officiating is as these things add up, it leads to developing not necessarily relationships, but reputations. Relationships with the refs, I suppose. You know these guys pretty well, these folks that officiate these games, not just guys, gals as well. You get to know these officials. These officials get to know you, and they expect certain things from you. Like Jimmy Butler has earned a reputation of being one of the best foul drawers in the NBA. It is only human nature then that an official would look at a call that might be borderline and err on the side of Jimmy Butler getting the call. The same is true of Jaren Jackson Jr. on a foul possibility. You watch the game, and every once in a while, Jaren gets called for a foul that shouldn't be a foul. Is that a reputation foul? Most folks that follow the league pretty extensively would say that's fairly commonplace. But where does it end for Memphis? Where do they find a way to get the right kind of reputation where they can find places to either save offensive opportunities and get more free throw chances, or give the opponent fewer free throw chances? Steph Curry shooting 13 for 13 from the charity stripe. That is not conducive to the Memphis Grizzlies wanting to win a basketball game. And the same thing can happen on Friday. If you allow your opponent to get to the free throw line often, it gives them chances to score points with the clock stopped. So even if the Grizzlies are the better team, the Grizzlies are the team with the winning record, the Grizzlies are the team that should be favored going into Friday night's contest. If you give your opponent a chance to earn scoring chances with the clock stopped because you're not able to defend without fouling, that's a problem. If you're not able to maneuver your body and create contact the way that Jimmy Butler does and get to the free throw line yourself, that's a problem. So how does Memphis take advantage of these opportunities better? That is something that you can't fix in a day. We're going to talk about practice later on. The Grizzlies are practicing on Thursday. That's not something that you fix in one practice session, but it is something that can be addressed in terms of keeping an eye on it, because Memphis does not get a good whistle consistently. Zach Edey does not get a good whistle. I was frustrated with Zach Edey yesterday. I think he deserved it. He's a rookie and he did some things well. Memphis would be very lost without him in terms of rebounding. So he needs to continue to keep playing. But he keeps bringing the ball down among similarly sized humans when if he keeps the ball up, will take advantage of the fact that he is not a similarly sized human. He is an uncommonly large individual, but he brings the ball down to where the others are, and they are able to reach at and slap at and grab the ball, forcing turnovers and at times fouling Zach Edey. But at 7'4", 290 pounds, how many calls is he going to get? To a much lesser extent, it's kind of the Shaq dilemma, right? So how the officials interact with the Grizzlies when games are close, like the Warriors game was, that stuff matters. Every little bit matters. But you can't control the officiating. So the Grizzlies have to be able to clean up the things like ball placement for Zach Edey, like body position, like verticality on defending shots. Those are pieces that maybe you can't completely fix in one practice session, but should be discussed at practice today for the Memphis Grizzlies. Let me know how you're feeling about the officiating, that last 2-minute report that came out post Grizzlies Warriors. Hit me up on X at Joe Mullinax. And like I said, the comments on YouTube have been hopping. Let's keep that going. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we are going to be talking about Ja Morant's ankle. Oh, I'm sure there will be an update from DeMichael tomorrow on our show, but Ja wants to play. What are some things that obviously could limit Ja heading into the do or die game on Friday night? Stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by SKIMS. Oh boy, when I found out that SKIMS was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about the quality of SKIMS from friends and family. I had to give it a try, and let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear. I'm a big guy. Comfort, fit, finding the right style. SKIMS changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everybody, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance, comfort, and style. I am a boxer brief guy. I like to work out, whether I go for a run or a walk, whenever I'm not getting 3 hours of sleep because I'm doing late night podcasting. When I tried SKIMS stretch boxer briefs, I felt like I found the missing link because I didn't have to feel like I was wearing workout clothes all the time. They gave me all the movement and comfort I needed for working out without feeling like I'm hanging out in gym clothes for the rest of my day. They never shape, they never ride up. And since wearing them, I feel like I've gotten in even better shape. Maybe that's just me. Shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com/lockedonnba and SKIMS stores. Let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show from the drop-down menu that follows. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game, and make no mistake, tomorrow night, the Grizzlies will be in a playoff game. It's do or die. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels absolutely huge, and it's electric in the arena. With Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and the last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. You get great last-minute deals on sports like the game tomorrow night for the Grizzlies, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more, and you have all-in pricing, which means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So Ja Morant was quoted as saying after the game against the Warriors that he was going to play no matter what. No matter what. Ja Morant was going to be on the floor for the Memphis Grizzlies against whoever they faced in the play-in game. And of course, that's good news for Memphis, right? Because Ja Morant is easily their most explosive offensive player, although Desmond Bane, the way that he played against Golden State, might have something to say about that. But Ja is pretty clearly their most explosive offensive player, their engine on that end of the floor. And, believe it or not, numbers suggest that he is one of their better defenders this year. He's certainly not perfect on that end, but he's not as bad as he's been in the past. So while Ja may not be having the two-way season that Jaren Jackson Jr. has been having, at least had been happening until March came around, a Jaren Jackson Jr. bounce-back game on Friday would be more than welcome. Shout out to Jaren, by the way. Quick side note, 250 tickets being given away for the play-in game on Friday evening, thanks to Jaren Jackson Jr. That's a nice touch from one of the community leaders, arguably the community leader of the Memphis Grizzlies, or for the Memphis Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson Jr. Ja Morant is the guy on the floor that makes everything turn, especially offensively. And having him out there, even if he's not 100%, is extremely valuable. Now, how likely is it that Ja is going to be 100% in this game on Friday? Very unlikely. One of the positives of the loss as the 8th seed against the 7th-seeded Golden State Warriors is Memphis gets the extra day of rest, right? They don't have to travel anymore. They came back on Wednesday from California. They have a chance to settle down, get some rest on Wednesday. They practice today. And at that practice, Ja Morant will get treatment. I would imagine he'll be limited at practice, maybe a questionable designation going into the game. But Steph Curry was banged up going into the game on Tuesday night, and he was not on the injury report. Draymond Green, not as banged up. Jimmy Butler, pretty banged up with that quad injury. Clearly didn't limit him, that big knee to the quad that he got from Kawhi Leonard. They weren't on the injury report at all. So as adamant as Ja has been that he's going to play, I would imagine that you're not going to see him on the injury report either. But we don't know how that ankle has responded, and we won't know until we get reports from practice. And again, on our Friday edition of the show, I have a sneaky suspicion we'll get an update from our good buddy DeMichael Cole, who will be back with us, talking about how practice goes and the status of Ja Morant heading into Friday night. You need Ja on the floor, obviously. Ja's presence allows for the team to feel like they have more of a chance than maybe that they do. And in this particular game, that isn't necessarily fair, right? Because the Grizzlies should be favored. To be honest with you, even if Ja doesn't play, he says over and over again he's going to. So I believe him. I believe he's going to give it a go. But even if Ja didn't play, Memphis should still be favored. The Grizzlies are in a place where they have to execute. It's about what Memphis does. There's a reason why I'm not talking about the play-in opponent on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. It's irrelevant to me. We'll talk more about them tomorrow in our preview episode. But they are a lower seed than Memphis. They have a losing record. The Memphis Grizzlies are 26-4 against teams with records below 500 this season. This is a game that the Grizzlies should expect to win and win, not necessarily decisively, but comfortably. Ja Morant obviously would help in that process, but his presence on the floor, the success he's had in clutch situations, the way that he gutted through it at Golden State, coming back in the game, clearly not being entirely himself, but being willing to fight through it and compete. Tomas Isolo, I don't know if I completely agree with the comp, but he talked about the way that it looked to the players, at least to him, Isaiah Thomas hobbling around in the 1988 NBA Finals. This comes from, of course, our good buddy DeMichael Cole over at the Commercial Appeal at DeMichael C on X, my co-host here on Locked On Grizzlies. Ja knew that guys like Desmond Bane were having really strong games. Ja knew that he was not at 100%. He was more than happy to allow Dez and others to kind of take the lead late. And Memphis almost got away with it, right? The Grizzlies were winning late in the contest. So Ja just putting himself out there in that way, that is leadership. That is leadership, being willing to sacrifice your own, not necessarily health. Well-being is a fair way to put it. If you've never sprained your ankle before playing basketball, most people that have played a lot of basketball or even a decent amount of basketball in their life have sprained their ankles at least a time or two. The pain is pretty bad. And obviously you recover, and in theory, depending on the severity of the sprain, you can finish a game. But once Ja took his shoes off after that game and that right ankle swelled up, sprained ankles are often the kind of injury that once the adrenaline wears off and you get off of it for a little while because you're in bed, you're asleep, it can get worse. It can be a lot worse the next day. And it's all speculation sitting here talking with you right now. I have no insider information. The Grizzlies play this kind of stuff pretty close to the vest. But if they can get Ja Morant back in a productive manner to where he can be a threat enough that he can get to the basket, that he can create offense for others, that he can be a decoy even to allow for Desmond Bane and other players to have room to operate, it's going to be worth it. One of the negatives of losing the game against the Warriors is Memphis wins tomorrow night. They play Sunday. So they win on Friday night, hopefully, go to bed, wake up the next day, and they travel to OKC to play the Thunder on Sunday evening. It's a quick turnaround. That ankle's not going to get better. But the reality of the situation that Memphis finds themselves in is they have to find a way to get the most out of Ja Morant, even in this currently banged up state. So how he practices, what he does at practice is going to bear monitoring. Doesn't mean that he's not going to play. Ja has been pretty adamant that he is going to give it a go, going to try. But is Ja at 70% better than John Conchar at 100%? I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. As a matter of fact, I'm going to retract that statement. Yes, the answer is yes. Ja Morant is absolutely better at 70%. So Ja being on the floor brings a state of belief, brings a state of confidence to the team. Even if he's not able to be 100% Ja, his presence is going to be beneficial going into this game. Let me know in the comments if you agree. Should Ja sit this one out if his ankle isn't 100%? It's not going to be 100%. So how do you feel about Ja giving it a go? And again, we'll give you some updates on that, of course, on our next episode. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we'll close out this episode of the show. The Grizzlies are practicing today. If I was Coach Mullinax, if I was running that session, I'm going to talk about the things I would focus on heading into tomorrow night's game. Stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass on Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 to Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It is gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6 or 6E and auto-low latency mode, advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning-fast speeds that you need to stay competitive. And you can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. If you already have a console, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take you or your kids' favorite games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. Check them out today. So as I've said a couple of times on this episode of the show, the Grizzlies are practicing today, and this is going to be the focus of my newsletter today. If you haven't already checked it out, sometimes it gets published a little bit later or sent out in the emails later than the website itself, LockedOnDaily.com. Again, go subscribe to the Locked On Grizzlies free daily newsletter. We'll keep talking about that, of course. Thanks to everybody that has subscribed so far. I'm going to write about what my practice would look like, okay? Because I do have a little bit of a background in coaching. It's a different sport and at a much different level, but I've developed a practice plan or two in my day. And you have to remember that you're late in the season here, right? The Grizzlies just played their 83rd game of the season, not counting the preseason, about to play game number 84. You don't want to wear them down. You don't want to scrimmage the entire time. The team needs to be as fresh as possible going into a game where their season is on the line. However, there are aspects of the flaws that were revealed against the Warriors that can be worked on. And I'm going to start on the guy who needs the most work in terms of having a floor where the ceiling still is pretty spacious because he's 7'4", 290 pounds. He needs the room to walk. That is Zach Edey, the very large rookie center for the Memphis Grizzlies. I mentioned it earlier on the show. Nothing frustrates me more as a former middle school and high school big man than watching a fellow big, Zach Edey's more than a foot taller than me, and I'm 6'2", watching a fellow big that has the size advantage bring the ball down below his head when it's not necessary. There's times where it is necessary. I'll give him that. You have to get a quick dribble to be able to get yourself in a better position to finish at the rim. But there were at least two times against the Golden State Warriors where he was right there at the bucket. All he had to do was reach up and jump, and he could stuff it in. But he keeps bringing the ball down below his head. And you have defenders at the NBA, regardless of the opponent, who are able to utilize their hands, who are able to get body positioning on you and be able to rip and rake at that ball. And as we talked about earlier, the officials aren't going to call a foul every time. So Zach is understanding, hopefully, that he has to be in a better position with the handling of the ball and how he catches it and how he finishes. That is something that he absolutely can focus on in practice today. Another thing that Zach Edey can focus on in practice, and Jaren Jackson Jr. can join him, passing out of double teams. The Golden State Warriors abused the Memphis Grizzlies in this space. Zach Edey and the 4 turnovers that he had, all of them came about in large part because he was in the block, he was on the paint. Tumas Islo actually utilized Edey in some of the same ways that he played at Purdue in terms of trying to get him the ball on the block in the low post. That was a bit of a surprise, but Edey had the size advantage. It made sense. But he gets the ball. The double comes because no one on Golden State can actually defend Zach Edey. And he's not able to make the pass to the hot route, using football terminology, from that double team player. When I say hot route, in football, if somebody's blitzing, a nickel cornerback or a linebacker from the outside or up the middle, a quarterback is taught to replace where the pressure came from. Wherever that route is, if you're running a slant, a drag, whatever the case, a bubble, you're trying to hit that receiver now because you know that space is being vacated by the blitzer. Same principle can apply here. Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr., just in two different ways, need to work on that. Obviously, Zach, it's in the low block. It's when he catches it off of the pick and roll as a screener. For Jaren, so much of his scoring is done in isolation and creating off of the dribble on the perimeter for himself that he has his head down. He's a bull in a china shop. He's not looking at where that guy is coming from. And that limits his vision and what he's capable of doing. Golden State Warriors figured Jaren Jackson Jr. out, man. Jaren is 6'11", 245 pounds, and a heck of an athlete. He has a decent enough handle. In a different way, no one could defend Jaren Jackson Jr. either, but he allowed for the Golden State Warriors to be in a spot to be able to defend him effectively, especially inside the arc, because he didn't have variety in what he did, whether it was going to his right hand more consistently, whether it was a quick pump fake and getting underneath after showing the left hand, which is his main favorite move to do, whether it is him making the extra pass. If you're an everydayer here on Locked On Grizzlies, you know that is something I have beaten the drum of for a long time. That's the next step of Jaren's evolution. He was better at it last year than he is this year. It's maddening. Keep your eyes up. Make the kick out. Find the open guy. Jaren has shown in the past he can do that. Zach Edey's a rookie. Jaren is regressing in something that he did show growth in the previous season. Coming back to that. One last thing that I would focus on in practice today, if I were the Memphis Grizzlies, is I would really, really, really ask Tuomas Isalo to prioritize closeouts on three-point shooters. At the very least, a slow closeout. Zach Edey left Gary Payton Jr., Draymond Green, whoever was the focal point of that particular Warriors rotation, that particular Warriors lineup at the floor at that time. Whoever it was, they left those dudes open without any real closeout at all. And that led to open shots, and that led to makes that probably could have been made a little bit more difficult. Again, friendly reminder, Zach Edey is 7'4", 290 pounds. I don't know if I've said that or not on this episode of the show. Hopefully you are detecting the dripping sarcasm from my voice. A slow closeout can force the angle of a shot attempt off enough to lead to a miss, and Zach can still turn around and probably grab the rebound. Make no mistake, that's the main reason Zach Edey is out on the floor. He's flawed as a defender. Teams are absolutely picking on him. But one of the reasons his numbers are still decent in terms of plus minus is the rebounding advantage he brings to the floor with Memphis. You have to have some semblance of a little bit better of a closeout. Open threes are going to be made on Friday. Hopefully more of them are made by Memphis than the opponent. But as you have Zach Edey on the floor, allow for him to be maneuverable, allow for him to be malleable, and get the chance to at least take an additional step to put a little bit more arc, a little bit more emphasis on whatever the shot attempt is from the opponent. Those would be my focal points of practice: rebounding, passing, a little bit better defensive rotations. What about you? What say you? How would you feel about Grizzlies practice today? Let me know on X. Hit me up in the comments. Thank you so much for being with me on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Thank you so much to everybody that's a subscriber on YouTube. We are less than 50 subscriptions away from hitting the big 5,000 mark. We're very excited about that. DeMichael and I have worked together for over 2 years now, and we've been building and building Locked On Grizzlies. We're going to continue to do so, not just now, but in the future, of course. Please, please, please continue to spread the good news that is Locked On Grizzlies, not just in YouTube form, but wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, all that sort of stuff. And over at Locked On Daily with the Locked On Grizzlies podcast newsletter. The play-in race is obviously heating up. It's do or die for Memphis on Friday. Can the Grizzlies secure a playoff spot? Stay in the know with the Locked On Grizzlies podcast newsletter and get a chance to win one of these amazing prizes by subscribing. A $2,500 Best Buy gift card for upgrading your sports cave, a $300 Game Time gift card, and a $200 Fanatics gift card. Sign up between April 17th And April 30th, to be entered, our Grizzlies newsletter delivers real-time updates, expert analysis, and playoff insights tailored for you. Subscribe now for free to the Locked On Grizzlies podcast newsletter. Stay ahead of the season, stay ahead of everything as the play-in tournament concludes. Subscribe today. Click on the link in the description to enter. On tomorrow's show, we will obviously be previewing the play-in game, the do-or-die contest for the Grizzlies in Memphis at FedEx Forum. Michael Cole will be back with us talking about what happened at practice and, of course, looking ahead to what may be either the start of the Grizzlies playoff series with the Oklahoma City Thunder or the end of what has been a pretty disappointing, at least the second half, Memphis Grizzlies season. Until then, stay locked in. I am Joe Mullinax. Again, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Google, everywhere with all those places. Make Locked On Grizzlies part of what you do. Catch you tomorrow.